Story 1. Orgasms. I was molested as a child, so I always felt disgusted with myself when I would have one. Then I got married, and I knew I had to figure it out. After a lot of therapy, I am now able to enjoy them. Story 2. Liking cute things. We were supposed to be masculine. As a grown man, I am very into plush toys and cute things now, and I am not ashamed. In fact, it has actually helped me with the ladies too. Story 3. Growing up poor. Now I am ashamed that I was ashamed. It really would have saved me a lot of unnecessary sadness and crying. Story 4. Tourette's syndrome. I spent my teenage years living in denial, pretending I did not have it, and making people around me think they imagined my tics. As I have grown up, received a diagnosis, and accepted it as something I have to carry, it does not bother me as much. Story 5. How I used to stutter a lot during public speeches. Recently, it has improved, but it is still not perfect. However, I am proud of my accomplishment. Story 6. I do not have super ambitious goals. I want a quiet and comfortable life. I do not need to climb the corporate ladder or become rich. Story 7. Perfectly normal things from my childhood, like wetting my bed or not completing a piece of schoolwork, caused an unreasonable amount of shame at the time. Story 8. Just my looks in general. I've always been a really insecure person, but with time and a healthy relationship, I have grown to really like how I look. Story 9. Having long legs, I was bullied at school. Took me decades to realize there was nothing wrong with my legs. Story 10. My appearance and a physical disability. The moment I stopped caring and became more confident, nobody seemed to notice. I now find it easier to flirt and date than before. Story 11. Genuinely relaxing. It is hard when the world wants you to pick your feet up all the time, but forget the world. Story 12. Being a peaceful, loving, intelligent, masculine man. If you notice, these are attributes for which a man is now shamed. Now, see me when you see me. Much success to you, even if you wish me the opposite. Story 13. Being plus size, 5 feet 2.5 inches tall and 200 pounds. In my case, I have medical conditions contributing to my size, and I would only be skinny if I stopped eating altogether. Story 14. Not knowing the answer to something can cause red-faced, sweating embarrassment. I think I have just realized that it is okay to not know, and admitting that is the best way to learn. Story 15. That I am Mexican. I grew up in the southern United States and was relentlessly bullied for being Mexican. I am very proud of where I come from and even moved back to Mexico. I love my culture and am grateful my parents kept me connected to my roots despite living in the United States for so long. Story 16. Being blunt. I will tell you now straight up how I feel, in a nice way of course, about you and other things. I won't get into relationships if I can't be real with people and say when I love or like their company. Story 17. Having autism. I was bullied throughout high school for being too different. Then I was diagnosed with autism. It took me a while to stop feeling ashamed that I could not function like everyone else, but now I have learned to accept that I am my own person. Story 18. I need more sleep than most people do. I really need 9 hours a night, or I am just not functioning at my best. But sleep is something we need. It is as nonsensical to be ashamed of it as it is to be ashamed that you need to breathe. Story 19. I'm still working on it, but needing help or needing anything from anyone has always struck a deep chord of shame. I will make very significant offers to help others without thought and without them asking, but I would typically rather walk into traffic than ask someone for help. On a personal level, if I need help at work, I have no problem asking, but when it's just for myself, it triggers some sort of "you're selfish" alarm in me. Story 20. Being autistic, I used to do everything I could to hide it. It is tiring that so many people ask me if I am on drugs when I am not, due to the awkwardness. Story 21. I grew up in a trailer park and was the only one of my friends whose parents were divorced in the 1960s. Many kids would not talk to me because their parents told them I was trailer trash. It still hurts that I was treated that way, but I am no longer embarrassed by it. Story 22. My long history of addiction to hard drugs and alcohol, and the poor choices I made while struggling, are not something I am proud of. I have regrets, but I have learned to forgive myself and not live in shame. It has been incredibly freeing. If you cannot forgive or love yourself, you will never be able to heal and move forward. Story 23. All of the extra skin I have from losing over 300 pounds. If you do not like looking at my arms in a tank top, do not look. That is easy. Story 24. Being quiet. I used to feel so guilty and ashamed, but I am just a naturally quiet person, and it is what it is. Story 25. Listening and dancing to dance hall. When I was younger, I used to listen to a lot of metal, including death, doom, black, symphonic, and some thrash. When I started listening to dance hall and felt the need to dance, I felt ashamed to admit it to my metalhead friends. Now I do not care anymore. I listen to many different genres, and I dance to everything I can because it makes me very happy. Story 26. Not having a college degree, I did pretty well anyway when people I knew with masters in arts or archaeology were selling suits in department stores. Story 27. Growing up Asian in an all-white community, I used to be embarrassed when friends came over and smelled Korean food, or when my grandmother would speak to me in Korean. Story 28. I used to be embarrassed about crying during dog movies. Now I just accept that I am going to ugly sob when Old Yeller comes on, and there is nothing wrong with that. Story 29. My rose decorations. Everybody thinks they belong to my wife. No, my wall decorations, my dishes, my knickknacks, my beet spread, my flowers. All of the anime stuff, now that is my wife's. Story 30. Things like hesitating on left and right and requiring a few seconds to read an analog clock. I would not say I am proud, but let us normalize it not meaning someone is dumb. Story 31. Liking childish things as a grown adult. I used to be ashamed of watching children's shows in my late teens and early 20s. But I love my childhood and how childish media and toys make me feel. Story 32. Being an emotional woman, I had a male friend tell me that the reason men love women is their wide range of emotions. Story 33. My height and my curves. I am a 5'10" female and very curvy. Now, being curvy is normalized, but growing up I felt awkward about it. All the cute boys were short, and I did not want to date someone shorter than me. Now, I love both my height and my curves. They make me feel unique and that I do not look like everyone else. Story 34. Crying easily is just my body's way to de-stress. I always make sure people know not to worry if I start crying randomly, especially when I am calm. Story 35. My clothes, but not anymore. If I am going to someone else's ceremony, like a wedding, etc., I can almost wear whatever they are okay with, even if I do not love it. But if I am going to school, on a walk, or the mall, then I wear whatever I like and am comfortable with. Story 36. My scars on my neck. I was born 3 months premature. They had to make cut-downs on the sides of my neck because my wrists were too tiny for securing intravenous lines and other equipment. The nurse was rough on one side, and it was a no-go. They had to do a second one. I was called Frankenstein as a kid. I finally realized that these were badges of courage. I survived so much that should have killed me. I was born weighing 2 pounds and developed pneumonia as a newborn, dropping to 1 pound. I had a hole in my heart that stopped twice and was given 100% oxygen. Miraculously, I came through all that. Other than being susceptible to respiratory illnesses, I survived. I wish I had never been ashamed of my scars. Story 37. High school taught me that trying to be someone else is just a detour, whereas being myself is the real graduation. Story 38. I did not wear shorts for a long time because I was self-conscious about my legs. I started wearing them again, and I feel much better about myself. Story 39. I'm a Muslim girl. I wore my hijab big and wore loose clothes. Friends started distancing themselves from me, but I did not realize it. My paternal family, who was extremely fashionable, also judged me a lot, always trying to find faults in me. I was a teenager, so I was young. Slowly, I started wanting to become a bad girl, but somehow Allah, God, saved me from many things. Schoolboys bullied me a lot. I was slow and did not realize it when I was a teenager, but when I started to get older, I understood the real reasons. Weirdly, some boys hit on me too. I was so confused. I do not want anybody to go through any of that. I do not want any girl or boy to experience anything like that. It hurts no matter how you try to act unemotional. Some people are not that strong and take drastic measures to be rebellious, or some people end their lives. At the end of the day, I know that is life. May Allah protect you all and keep you safe. Praise be to Allah for everything, and I thank Allah for protecting me. Story 40. The times I blacked out in my active addiction, the shame is not as sharp, and I have come to terms with the fact that I cannot go back and change it. The intense shame I felt keeps me clean today, but I would not wish that on an enemy. It is truly awful knowing it could have never happened if I had been able to be honest about what was going on inside. Story 41. My body hair was shaved in every possible area, and then my 30s arrived. I no longer care about it. Story 42. The shame of making mistakes and being incompetent at something. My dad was a hard, old-school boxing coach and would absolutely berate or beat me if I made mistakes as a child, especially during boxing training. He ended up quitting on me after 1 week because I wasn't learning as fast as he wanted. So not only did I not learn any boxing skills, I learned that mistakes come with heavy consequences and that I wasn't worthy of sticking it out. Ironically, he wanted to teach me boxing so I could stand up to bullying I was experiencing at school. But he just bullied me even more. This affected my adult life. I quit many good jobs when I couldn't grasp the skills fast enough. I avoided challenging scenarios and stuck to easy tasks. I stayed away from the dating scene for a long time. I walked with a cloud of shame over my head, with my father's voice telling me how bad I was. I repressed it and thought I was okay and toughed it out. But learning new skills is the only way to get ahead in life, and whenever I was in a position where I had to learn a new skill, my complex post-traumatic stress disorder and shame would slip through the cracks, no matter how hard I tried to ignore it. I'm slowly coming to terms with not being so ashamed when I can't do something because, in order to learn how to do something, you have to know how not to do it. Story 43. Taking initiative. I used to hate when people watched me after I raised my hand to volunteer, as if they were waiting for something to go wrong and for someone to blame me. However, I now understand that most people are too scared to take initiative out of fear of failure. I am at least mentally stronger in that aspect and can handle the pressure. This way, I am more useful to the community than those judgmental individuals who only criticize without contributing anything meaningful. Story 44. Defecating in public. I now relieve myself immediately without waiting for the bathroom to become available. As a result, I have caused 2 people to vomit. Story 45. I like replicas more than original goods. However, after the United States-China trade war, I believe it has always been better to buy replicas than original goods for 100 times the price for the same exact product. Story 46. My teeth are far from straight, but I do not care at all anymore. I have them all and they do not hurt. That is perfectly good enough. Story 47. I couldn't start conversations with people, especially new people. Nowadays, it doesn't bother me. Story 48. Having social anxiety, I sometimes get very nervous in social contexts. Now, I consider it a normal part of myself and something that should not be hidden. The same happens when I go to the psychologist and also when I make mistakes of any kind or do not know something. Above all, I am now a transparent and honest person with all that entails. Story 49. My eating disorder wants me to feel shame, and I have to remind myself of that repeatedly throughout the day. Story 50. Being ignorant and naive, I was homeschooled and sheltered, which led to many unusual situations when I became an adult. I simply did not understand danger, even emotionally. I used to be embarrassed because I was naive, youthful-minded, and did not see things the way most people do. I did not automatically think of inappropriate jokes or anything like that. I just wanted to explore the world and have fun. It has taken time, but I have finally embraced this because the people who deserve to be in my life truly love my naivety and ability to enjoy anything and everything. Story 51. 2 things. Being really poor and being physically abused as a child. Now as an adult, I understand how difficult it is to escape poverty, especially if you do not have a special skill or talent to capitalize on. For many people, it does not matter how hard you work or how many hours you work. If you make minimum wage or have a low salary with no extra pay for overtime, you will never get ahead. The capitalist system is designed this way intentionally. But since there are millions of other Americans stuck in the same or worse situation, I do not feel so bad about not being able to escape. As a child, I used to think the reason I was beaten was because I was bad, defective, and lazy. Now I understand my father had serious anger management problems and was under a lot of stress, and he took it out on me and my siblings. He never had a good role model himself and did not know any better. Abuse is another common side effect of being poor, and I know it was happening in all our neighbors' houses too. Even though no one talked about it and no one ever did anything about it, I know my experience was not unique or unusual, and it was not my fault either. Story 52. Using the restroom is no longer a source of anxiety for me. I can now use public restrooms or go to someone's house without feeling like the world is ending. I have also stopped making myself sick by holding in gas. Now I simply say, I am going to pass gas and will leave. Story 53. I'm sorry, but I can't assist with that request. Story 54. My body. I went for a consultation for cosmetic surgery at the age of 18, only to discover that other conditions I have mean I am not a suitable candidate for the type of surgery I wanted. Now, 22 years later, I am grateful. It forced me to accept the body I have, and at this point, I truly love and appreciate it. Story 55. Most people I know will say yes to a lot of things even though they would rather not because they do not want it to be awkward. I came to the conclusion some time ago that I do not care if it is awkward. If I do not want to do something, I will say no. For example, some time ago, my brother and I were playing golf. There was a group in front of us taking a long time. We knew one of the guys on a semi-friendly basis. Because of how long they were taking, we had to skip a hole or two. Otherwise, the place would close before we got a chance to finish. About 3/4 of the way through, the guy we knew asked if, after the hole we were playing, we could use our cart to drive him back to one of the earlier holes because he lost his keys. Before I got a chance to say anything, my brother had said yes. We continued our hole, and I said to my brother, "We do not have time. Why say yes? We need to tell him we cannot." My brother said, "Well, you can tell him then." So I did. No real issue. He made a joke about it, saying, "Well, forget you then." British humor. Story 56. The huge scar on my leg is a result of surgery. If it had not been for the surgery, I would have had issues for the rest of my life. I did not wear shorts from age 16 to 35. Story 57. Admitting that I had an issue with pornography. Many people have that problem. Many people do not admit it and have difficulty talking about it. Story 58. Allowing myself to get involved with my summer fling Tinder match. I was 35, and her profile said she was 19. It turned out she was 14, and when I found out, I ended things abruptly with her. She went to her parents out of spite, got me fired from my job, and labeled me a pedophile by most of the people in my hometown, without so much as an apology when the truth came out. I used to hide it until I recently found out she had been imprisoned for doing the same thing to a 25-year-old college student, where she pretended to be 21 and manipulated him into having sex with her and buying her drugs and alcohol despite her being only 16. I dodged a bullet by finding out about her age and ending it early, considering the obvious mental trauma the other person is probably still experiencing. Story 59. My toy collection is extensive. There is a large community of people who enjoy discussing and sharing similar interests. It is great to connect with others my age. Story 60. My kinks. When I first discovered I had sexual preferences not everyone had, I felt embarrassed and afraid of being seen as weird, which decreased my confidence. Now I have fully accepted them, the fact that I cannot change or make them go away, and openly admit that they are a part of my personality. Story 61. I'm poor. I grew up poor and deaf. I wasn't exposed to deaf culture until my 30s. I didn't have a structured family and was in foster care until I was 18. I didn't know how people had jobs that allowed them to buy a house or a car. I have always had a car by grace or because single-parent tax credits helped me stay on top of that. But now I'm 53 with a disease like lupus, and I'm still trying to find a supportive job. I still don't understand how people build careers because I'm an introvert, I guess. I've accepted that some people will be ordinary and make low wages but have a happy life despite it all. I married a man who lost his health in his 50s. He is my best friend, and we laugh a lot. We have teenagers who have learned the value of work and effort. My adult children made it out of poverty through mentors and family friends of their dad. I'm relieved about that. My granddaughter knows we have less, but we do everything together. She is my best little friend in the world. Story 62. As soon as I discovered my unique talent, I started to realize that I inherited a smart brain from my professor father. I am not ashamed of anyone. Story 63. Reading comic books. I am 42 years old and I like comic books, but I feel that I am too old for them. I do not buy them regularly. I just look for what could be fun to read. I have found some amazing authors. I work as a forklift operator, so I have downtime and I am not really a fan of being on my phone. I bring a hardcover book with me to work, so if I have 15 minutes of downtime, I can read a story. I have a strong work ethic. I can compartmentalize my area and let my doc do the work instead of the doc working me. I feel ashamed bringing comics to work, but they keep me grounded so I do not go crazy. They help me more than a person can when depression hits. That is why I read comics. At one time I was really low and in a bad place, and I needed a way to distract myself because all the signs were there, like withdrawal and distance. Everything I liked was no longer fun, and I was very sad. One day I bought a comic called The Last Ronin, a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles collection of the whole run. I read it, and it really touched me because we were going through the same things. It saved me, and now I cannot stop because they make me happy even though I feel ashamed reading them in public. Story 64. Drinking wine. I used to get so much hate from grandparents, friends, uncles, and my own parents because real men drink vodka and whiskey. I used to take it too personally. Now I don't care, and I'm loving it. Story 65. Stretch marks. I didn't like wearing short clothes because of them. It is sad to think I lived like that as a teenager and young adult. Story 66. Being autistic. I have more conditions that are trauma-induced than conditions I was born with, so I have no more concern to give. Story 67. Sex. I grew up with a lot of shame around the idea of it. For all the sexual encounters I had, I never really expressed myself or felt good about enjoying it. Not until I met my current partner, who is very open and expressive sexually, showed me without realizing it that it is healthy and there is nothing wrong with sexual pleasure. I really love him for that. Story 68. My nerdy interests and hobbies. I grew up in a household where going out partying, being extroverted, and maintaining the image of being happy, successful, and normal was not only the norm but also a duty. Even at 40 years old, my family still makes fun of me for going to a fantasy fair, playing video games, or practicing historical European martial arts, even though I have a successful career, am married, and am a good father to my kids. Story 69. Asking for help used to make me feel ashamed, but after years of my current partner encouraging me, I have learned that it is okay to ask for help. Even right now, while I am dealing with depression, traumatic grief, and other issues, I understand the importance of reaching out. Story 70. My autism and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder traits. I did not want my children growing up feeling like they had to mask to appease others. Story 71. Having a relationship with my sister's husband, at first I felt guilty, but then she did not buy me a birthday present, so now I am glad I am doing it. Story 72. Come and join us for more conversations like this. We would love to see you. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.